prince and a princess that got married, like, through marriage. It's like, oh no, 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 no. Like,
right.
I mean, just with me that first time viewing it, I didn't pay attention, like, at all. And that's the thing is, like, if you got a person that likes to get up and move around, you better fucking tie them to a chair and make them watch the whole thing. Otherwise, they're gonna miss some important shit. Like,
Yeah, it's
like,
interesting.
I was up getting snacks, checking my phone, like stupid shit. But
yeah. But it's interesting because I find that those scenes, they tend to draw you in, whether, like, I think of it like this: if you live in a house or apartment and across the street there are two people having sex, I think part of you just wants to watch. Whether it's for privacy reasons or not, it's just like you want to know what's going on. You know what I mean? There's something being shown there, and it's like, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's kind of us as the viewer. It's like we're like the kid, we just kind of want to see, okay, why are these two people all the way up here? You know what I mean? Like
doing stuff.
Yeah, doing stuff.
And in his mind, he's like, I don't think I'm supposed to see this.
Yeah. He's like,
I've had neighbors like banging, and like I've looked over and seen them in the window, and I was just like, I just start laughing just because I'm like, oh fuck, all right guys, you got to close a blind or whatever, and then I'll just close the blind myself. Or
right.
The best was like the old apartment me and Sarah Beth used to have. Like, I don't know, it was like 3 a.m, and I don't know if it's the structure of the building, but. Like, I just heard this, like, loud, high-pitched moaning and, like, all this shit. And I thought somebody was in trouble, so I'm, like, waking up. I'm like what the fuck is going on? And I go outside to, like, look for the person because it was coming in so clear. And I'm, like, looking around. I'm like, what the? I just swear to God, I was like, did somebody drag? And I'm, like, looking to see if, like, maybe a door was left open or something like that. So I'm outside and I don't hear anything. But when I go back into the bedroom, like, because our bedroom was, like, on the corner part of the apartment. Something about, like, the way the window was on the very top floor of, like, the building next to us, it just let sound travel. Like, you could hear full-on conversations. You could hear them banging. And they would, like, bang at 5 a.m. I don't know if they had, like, worked night shifts. But, yeah, I would just start laughing. I'm like, wow, they're really putting in work. Where's those earplugs? Just, like, popping it in.
Right.
But, same thing with the little kid. It's like, I don't think I'm supposed to hear this, so fucking beep.
Right. And,
the situation.
And the kid's probably reacting.
He's not so lucky. He gets fucking, spoiler alert, crippled.
Yeah. Bran, he's a very important character in the show, so...
yes, that's the kid who gets pushed out the window. I should probably say their names. Yeah, and, spoiler alert. Yeah.
I guess, like, what was, when you were kind of, like, watching the family do their archery thing together, like, what was kind of your impression of, okay, cool, so the show just started, there's this family who are watching their kids kind of grow up and learn some, I guess, tactical life skills,
right.
And it's like, okay, this is probably like this is their family get-together kind of thing,
right.
And then you see, like, the sons doing their thing, and then the daughters doing their thing, and, like, what was kind of, like, your, like, by that moment where you're like, okay, cool, it's a story about a family.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, I knew there was something, the first scene kind of sets it up that something's wrong, that's going to happen, like most shows do, like, some shit's going on, and then one of the guys that was in the forest that made it out away from the ice zombies, he shows up in the town, and and this is on the second viewing, so I'm actually, like, paying attention at this point, and what you think is, like, the king, and he's actually just, like, a warden, so, like, you find out that he's a warden, and he's got his youngest son going up there to watch the beheading, and his youngest son wants to turn away, and he's like, you never turn away from somebody you need to behead. You got to face that head on. If you're going to do the deed, give them the respect to look. And so he accuses this guy of deserting, so clearly this guy was out part of some type of, like, army outreach outpost or whatever. And the guy was like, he was trying to tell him and tell him of these White Walkers that were coming back, and they're like, "Oh, you're just going crazy. You deserter. You know, how do you wish to die?" Like, and you choose to be beheaded. You know, the guy gets his head cut off, and like you find out that, oh, this guy he's a hard ass. You know, and they always say this winter is coming, like, and I was like, I thought it already was winter, but where they're at, it's like it's not warm, but it's there's no snow on the ground, so and it's called Winterfell, so I was like, wow, they're really hitting the nail on the head of like where they're at. Oh, the northern part is called Winterfell. Oh, okay, but I mean, it comes in later on why it's called Winterfell and all that stuff. But like, so he beheads that guy. And like you said, you get to see like all of his sons interacting with each other, and like sons, and you get to glimpse in on some of his daughters, but right away, like you know, you see like the kind of the characters falling in the place of traditional things. So you got the older brother who's like next in line to take his place, right? And then you got like the two sons teaching, you know, one son's teaching another son to like you said, archery shoot, and he's just not getting it. Like, he's sucking ass at doing it, and like all of a sudden you just see this arrow come flying over his shoulder, and it's a bullseye, and turns around and looks, and it's his sister.
Right.
And, you know, and she's like laughing and like having a good time, and then she gets caught by like, I guess the maiden or a maiden or something, and like takes her back to try and teach her how to be a lady. So right off the bat, you can see where like she's like the problem child. She's the black sheep of the family. She's like, you know, and you know, the younger, the kid who sucks at archery is like, he doesn't really want to do that. He kind of just wants to go off on his own. So you get to see like all the different archetypes. And then there's an older sister, and she's, you know, she's kind of the prim and proper, normal ladylike type of thing that everybody wants. She's ready to be married off to some fucking prince, no matter who he is, just as long as he looks good and is rich. So it's like, you know, so you get kind of like all the different archetypes of a family put together. And then you also have this other guy who's just kind of sitting off there. He's like important, but you don't know why, but he's also being treated like garbage. And, you know, he's a son, but they always call him Bastard. So it's like, oh, all right. So he's, you know, maybe a son from a previous marriage, which ends up getting cleared up, which is Jon Snow. So, and he's a pretty prominent character later on in the series. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very prominent.
Yeah.
So,
I was going to sling something to you. What are your predictions about the season finale, knowing that most of the characters who have been there since the beginning are there now? Now that we know that we can see who can live through the series, and who do you see sitting on the throne at this point, based on what has happened, and you know, who do you see? Yeah.
In regular Game of Thrones, in regular Game of Thrones fashion, again, spoiler alert, people, if you haven't turned it off yet, you know, fuck you. This is what's going to happen. Okay, so the Game of Thrones writer, directors, George R.R. Martin, really anybody else, they're like you said, your friends were in that group were telling you don't get attached to characters. At this point, they're well past the book, so there's no way you can know what's going to happen. But just like in Season 3, at the end of Season 3, there was a giant fucking cliffhanger. All these different characters that you get attached to die in this one particular spot. And it's like, it just ruins your whole fucking day when you watch that episode. Like, you're just like, I fucking hate everything about this. And, unfortunately, what I've seen, and I'll get to the season finale, you know, like how things are going to shape out and turn out. But like in fashion, I think they lost a little bit of that because it became so popular and people would just stop watching the show, even though I would have called bullshit on them. Like, I think they were going to kill, and I don't know if this happens in the book, but I think they were planning on killing off Jon Snow and leaving the only Starks alive at this point would have been Arya and Bran. But like they didn't want to kill off Jon Snow because they were worried that fans would backlash, but that kind of loses because like everybody liked Robb. Everybody liked Catelyn, Robb like was the next king. Everybody liked Eddard, but he gets fucking like everybody you like gets beheaded, and he's the only one I think that was able to survive through it. But maybe it was in the book. I don't know. I probably should have done a little bit more research as far as that goes. But
it's interesting because I find that I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I find that the people who have more experience on the show tend to survive the worst of the worst.
Right.
Like, Arya and Jon, like they've kind of been able to grow in their survival skills in forming friendships. Right. The people who've kind of who haven't had much, you know what I mean, trials or tribulations, they're the people who get cut off because, like, you have to be able to grow in order to survive in that world. You can't just stay in one place and expect that things are just going to get better. It's like, well, things get better as you get better, Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think there's a certain amount of hate that keeps, so John's able, like, I think there's something to add to that would be that Jon is he's kind of put together through duty, and Arya's kind of surviving through anger and hate. Bran is surviving because he's a seer and has to survive, I guess. I don't know. Like, I mean, like you said, they go through trials and tribulation, but then you got people like Jaime who's still alive. I mean, he's gone through some trials and tribulations too and has had to, like, adapt to a world, but, like, I mean, he was a pretty pompous guy up until then. So, I guess I never really... That's a good point, though, that most of the characters that have survived have gone through some tribulations, and the ones who have also gone through trials and tribulations and that have died, I guess they just, like, they like you said, stopped growing.
Like, I think
or whatever.
Yeah, like Ned, I mean, I think
he got the shaft.
Oh, yeah, he got the death penalty instantly, But, I think while he was a very likable and seemed like put-together person, I feel like he couldn't really exercise anything that was in his own will. And like I said, he wasn't really riding off from here to there. He was like, I've already kind of done all that. Now I'm just kind of trying to pass it on to, my successor, whoever that may be. And like, him, it's like, he could say no all day, but unless he's actually doing anything, it's not really doing him any good, so now I know he went to go, I think, didn't he ride off somewhere to find someone, and then Jaime came and they sought him out?
Yeah, so that's the other thing too, is I think, like, in contrary to what you said about Ned not being able to grow up and just or not growing out of his old mold that he's been in, he did kind of, like, take a lot of chances. He decided, he's like, Arya's, you can go train with this guy. I got you the best swordsman. You're not going to be a lady. You'll have to learn how to be a lady, but you can also learn how to fight as long as and that kind of helps her find her own way. But he hates this other antagonist in the series called Littlefinger, who he doesn't trust. He knows he shouldn't trust him. His wife tells him, no, you can trust him. He wouldn't do anything to betray me. And then you find out that, he does betray him. And so Ned's like, fuck, man, I was right all along. And like, he's doing his civic duty to his king, because he becomes like instead of the warden of the north, he becomes the hand of the king, which is like next in line to, the king or what, or not next in line, but like is an advisor to the king, like top advisor. And, when he starts poking and prodding in places he's not supposed to and trying to get things on track, that's when people are like, you're looking a little too close towards something. Let's fucking take you out. And so that's when Jaime comes in, that the sister fucker comes in and, like, murders his ass. So, I mean, he was growing a little bit though. I think like he was like letting certain things go, and ultimately he let his guard down too much, and that's when he got fucking murdered. You know.
Right.
So